These are the worst nail sets I've ever seen, and each one gets more extreme, from lumpy acrylic and crooked shapes to damaged nails and sets that should have never been called professional. We're going case by case, breaking down what went wrong and transforming them into something beautiful. Starting with this one that reminds me of a sponge or a honeycomb. If we take a look from the top view, they look like regular yellow nails. This client shared that the original shape and length was very different. They did long stilettos, like extremely long, but then she realized something is wrong and they ended up making them shorter. But if we take a look from here, like from the cross section, we can see that they are extremely thick, like for this length, and the same thing goes for the side view. There's just an insane amount of product. So I decided to clip them off with a tip cutter because usually it's way faster compared to the electric nail file. Then I realized that the nails are so thick, they literally cannot fit into my tip cutter, so I had to do it carefully, side by side. I also noticed that whenever I was clipping them, they were like easily falling apart. Usually you need to apply a little force at least, right, to clip off the nail, but with these ones I just used this super light touch and they were so fragile, like falling apart. So eventually I managed to clip them off. I couldn't really reach the furthest areas like I normally do to make them super short, so that's the best I could do. And if we take a look at the cross section now, this is how we get this fascinating picture. I don't think I've ever seen a gel look like this, because it reminds me of a sponge or something deep. Usually when you see the cross section of the nail, it's just a solid piece of product, but there we can see these little bubbles, these little lines, but also I don't think I've ever seen this amount of product at once on the nail. Maybe that's the reason. Anyways, this is hard gel, we cannot soak it off, so we need to file it off, and when I started doing that, this is another moment when I realized on how much work is ahead. So I need to file off all this pile of the product. When I was filing from the top, I noticed that it seems like the yellow color was not fully cured. Then the clear gel was okay, but as I get closer to the nail, the product was like falling off of the nail plate. So it seems like whether they used something different than base coat, maybe they didn't prep the nails very well, so something was off with the adhesion. Because normally when we have gel nails or acrylic nails and they're fresh, you can just remove the product but leave a thin layer of the old product in order not to damage them. But it was completely not possible in this case, because once I get closer to the nail, the product was falling apart. On some nails it was lifting, so I had to be extra careful to remove it from her nails. She felt such a relief once I removed all this pile of the product, but it was not the end. As you may notice, these extensions are rather fresh, so it's been only a few days, which means the product was still pretty close to the cuticle as well as the color. And then comes another challenge, which I absolutely didn't expect at this point. As I started doing dry manicure, there was some product remaining along the sidewalls, under the cuticle. Yes, the product, not the dry skin, not the cuticles we usually clean, but the actual product, which also seems to not be fully cured. So this is another clue of what went wrong. Supposedly they flooded the sidewalls and the cuticle area, and that's why the product started lifting at some point. So it took me quite a while to clean it all, and honestly for me this is usually a bit stressful, because when you need not just to remove the product but to clean it from such a tiny vulnerable part of the nail, we just need to do this careful surgical work. But finally I managed to do it, and luckily her nails were not really badly damaged, which means we definitely can do a full transformation and do a new set for her. So we decided to go with acrylics. Since she's a fan of long nails, we decided to do long coffin nails, and of course we're doing nail art. So let's say on the thumb I decided to use this loose glitter and apply it on the foundation of a clear acrylic first. By the way, whenever you're using loose glitter, it doesn't matter which product, acrylic gel or polygel, I always recommend using this sandwich method, which means first you take the product, it could be clear, it could be any other color, then you use the loose glitter. It could be just the loose glitter, it could be mixed with the product, whatever is more convenient for you. And then we also need to seal it with the product. So that way, this loose glitter will be in between, basically sandwiched between the product. So we will not need to worry about the adhesion issues, and also it is going to look great. So I'm using the exact same glitter on some of the other nails where we have a white base. And the best part about glitter is after you apply it and seal it and file and shape the nails, the reveal part comes only once you seal it with a glossy top coat. So I also used a different kind of blue glitter on some of her nails. So once we seal it with a glossy top coat, this is where we can see all the glitter, and I will show a detailed reveal at the end of this video. And if you thought that these nails were extreme, wait until you see the next set, where inside of the gel we actually found some undercured product. This is what it looks like from the top, and as usual from the top they look just like long nails with a nice cat eye color on top. But this view is usually very deceiving, because once you see from this view, it also doesn't look too unusual for now, right? They kind of thick, but nothing extreme. But keep in mind of how long they are, and let me also show you the side view. So I knew that this is going to be a lot of work, and another thing that surprised me is that actually the product they used underneath is white or milky, because normally we're using nude colors or transparent, well, depending on what you're going to do next. So there could be some reason why they used white, but this is one of the most challenging colors to fully cure. Let's say when you're using transparent gel, the UV light can fully penetrate through it, and it's much easier to cure. As compared to some colors like white, you need to apply it in a certain layers to be sure that it's fully cured. So I filed off only half of the nails. I didn't file them that short yet, and do you guys see how thick they are already? I can already see a little difference in color. Probably they used some two kinds of white, maybe one was more milky and another one was bright white. But anyways, bright white is one of the most challenging colors to cure, because usually it contains a lot more pigment compared to some other colors like nude or semi-transparent. So you need to use them with caution, you need to use thin layers and make sure that you always cure in between. So anyways, I continued with product removal. I filed off the color, and this is where I felt something weird, like the product felt a bit soft on the top. And I thought, oh well, maybe it's not fully cured. I mean, I kind of understood what's happening, but what I didn't expect, that there was an actual pocket inside with the gel that is even visually absolutely not cured. And it happened on the thumb, which I kind of can understand, because usually this is the finger that spends less time in an LED lamp, because when you're curing them one by one, usually all these four fingers get quite a lot of time in the lamp, but thumb is usually cured separately, so usually it spent much less time in the lamp. So when I opened this part, there was this fully not cured gel inside, and this, guys, is pretty dangerous. Not in terms that this nail may break or it just doesn't look good. That means that we have undercured product trapped inside, and if it's close to your natural nail plate, that means that your nail is exposed to the undercured product for days or even weeks, depending on how long she had those nails. And even if you've never been allergic to any products, this what can trigger this allergic reaction. So once I cleaned it and removed it, I proceed to another hand, which was insanely thick as well. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly at this point, I found the exact same issue on her other thumb. It also had this pocket of uncured gel, and I just cleaned it. I removed the part that was not cured and filed out the rest. And also they used hard gel, so there was no way to soak off. By the way, issues with the product not fully cured, they always come only with light cured products, because with acrylic, obviously you cannot really do this mistake. Acrylic cures on air, so you don't really need to do anything for it in order to cure. But with gel, it's tricky. Like, you need really to control the amount of product and the application and placement in the lamp to make sure that it is going to be fully cured. Filing of the product with electric nail file is my go-to method for product removal. So I do it a lot, almost every day. So I have to say it's quite fast for me. Usually I can do it within 5 to 10 minutes. Well, of course, it depends on the nails, on the length, on everything, but usually it's quite a fast process, but not this time. I think it took me almost the entire hour. Well, first of all, because of this insane thickness, I had to use carbide bead with black abrasive mark, which is usually just for acrylic. So I had to use carbide bead with black abrasive mark, which normally is just for acrylics, just to remove the length, and it took me quite a while. Then I had to file off all this pile of the product from the top, take care of the parts that were not fully cured. But once I did the product removal, I did dry manicure and realized that this client has such a pretty nails. And again, luckily, they were not really damaged, which means we are safe to proceed with nail extensions. And since she wanted long nails, and she has really long nail beds, so we can easily do it without worrying about safety, we decided to do long stilettos with acrylic. And as I explained in my previous transformation, the best way to do that is to do a foundation first. So when you're doing any kind of inlay nail art, regardless of the product, when you're planning to do something different in the future, let's say today you want white nails and next time you want to switch to something darker, then it's better to have neutral background such as transparent or nude, because it's way easier to switch in between them. So I'm doing a clear foundation, and then I have these cute acrylics. I have some neon colors with glitter, as well as matching neon colors without glitter. So I will be adding this glitter part in the center and also doing some slight ombre parts, color fades with a regular neon. So I just want to make sure that we conceal the part with the nail, but I don't want to apply this neon to fully cover the nail because I really want it to be half transparent. Actually, the glitter color is also based on clear acrylic, so I think it would be really nice to have this window of the nail. But whenever you're experimenting with some transparent parts, I recommend you to avoid making these transparent pieces that are close to the free edge or to the sidewalls, because sometimes it may look confusing and it will look like the shape is not on point. So it's better if the frame does have some color, but in the center or in between, it's totally fine if you will leave some empty transparent spaces. And by the way, who said that I'm just using one color? We decided to do a rainbow version of it, so every single nail will have a different shade. And I will follow the exact same pattern. So I will add some glitter, then I will do some neons in between to create some kind of a frame of this nail. So the next one will be orange, glitter and neon. Once you add color acrylics, we are going to encapsulate them with transparent acrylic. Also, if you notice that you need to add the product, let's say there's not enough product in the apex area or near the cuticle area, we can always fill it with transparent acrylic too. And this is what our long stilettos look like after product application. I kind of like them this way when they're matte, but we all know that this kind of glitter is going to look much better once we see it under the glossy top coat. So I filed and shaped it. I also like buffing acrylic nails so they will be super smooth, and of course we're going to use the glossy top coat. She had an insane amount of product on her nails, but luckily her nails were okay. Unfortunately, it was not like that for all of the clients, and one day we had another client with the nails like this, which actually look like okay nails. I mean, they're obviously very outgrown. It's been a while since she had this gel manicure, so it's time to take it off. But other than that, there's nothing extreme. They don't look too thick, and nothing really looks suspicious, right? By the way, the plan was to do a full transformation, and she was supposed to be a model for nail extensions. It's obvious that she has beautiful fingers and supposedly long nail beds, so all kinds of long nails like long stilettos will look so great on her. But once we started to remove the product, it was obvious that something's not right. There was something dark under the product, and at first we thought that maybe it's not that big of a deal. You know, it could be so-called greeny, which happens when we have a product lifting and then the moisture gets trapped inside. This is not great, but also this is like not the end of the world. But as my colleague Anna was removing this product, we realized that unfortunately it's way worse than we thought. So yes, she did have product lifting, and actually on some nails it was the so-called greenies and discoloration because of the moisture trapped for quite a while. But on some nails, it was something wrong with her nail. This is called onycholysis, the separation of the nail plate from the nail bed, which means we can easily reach through this area with any tool and it will not feel painful. And the worst part, we can already see this color there, which could mean absolutely anything. I know most people conclude when they see something like this, like, oh, this is fungus, this is infection, but the truth is we don't know. It could be the same kind of discoloration we get in the lifting. It could be just the moisture got trapped in between her nail bed and the nail plate, and eventually it changed its color. This would be the best case scenario, but also it could be fungal infection, and the only way to know that is to do a proper test in the lab. And of course, we explained it to her. Actually, once you see something like this, all you need to do is to remove extensions and then go straight to the lab to do this test. Also, whenever the nail plate is lifted from the nail bed, like this exact part is not growing back. The nail plate needs to renew first. And to achieve it faster, actually the best way is to clean this area that is separated already. That way, at least the moisture will not get trapped in there, so she will less likely to get more infection. But the client said no, that she doesn't care, she just wants to cover it up. And doing overlay or extensions on top of these nails with onycholysis honestly would be a crime. So of course we politely declined, and she was quite not happy about that. She said, hey guys, you actually promised me long extensions. And we said, well, yeah, but you have a condition that is an absolute no for not just extensions, even for regular overlay. And she said, oh well, can we at least cover them with like a gel or maybe do short extensions? And once again, it doesn't matter. Like, we ended up making her nails short, and by the way, she has really beautiful nail beds. I mean, they look so pretty even this way. We did carefully dry manicure and cuticle care, and this is unfortunately the best we can do in this situation. I would love to show you a beautiful before and after transformation with the new extensions, But in this case, the health is more important. So whenever we see injured nails like this and possible infection, absolutely there's no way we can do extensions. And if you're wondering how this lady could let that happen, how did she have this nail for so long, that makes me wonder about our next client who had extensions like this with Hello Kitty nail art. And this time, it doesn't matter which view do we take, whether we look at them from the side view, from the top view, from any view, it's pretty obvious that something is very wrong here. So originally, she had her natural long nails like this length, but most of them were already broken, so she used glue to somehow bring them back together. But it's so obvious that there are so many mistakes here. The structure is not built properly, the surface is so uneven, and most importantly, for the length like this, we need to build the apex, which is the thickest part of the nail in the center. And if we take a look from the side view, there's nothing like that. So I had to remove the product, and once I started doing that with ceramic bead, I realized that it feels like that most of the product, maybe not most, like all of this product, was just the color. And the color is basically a decoration. It usually goes on top. And yes, there are color builder gels, but it was not the case. Like, it was obvious that the color was just there on top. And I had to be so careful to remove that because under the color, there was something, maybe gel, maybe base coat, but it was so thin, so I had to be extra careful not to damage her nails. But some nails were a bit different, and honestly, I didn't expect to find this surprise inside. So do you guys see this white area in the center of the nail? At first I thought, well, this is lifting, nothing unusual. But when I got closer to it, I realized that this nail is basically empty inside. There's this hollow space, and yeah, it's totally fine. Sometimes, we get these little bubbles in the product. It happens to everybody, but this bubble was size of like half of the nail. And this is the most important area, the apex area. This is the part where the nail should have most of the product, like its thickest part, and it was practically empty. So honestly, I'm surprised that she didn't break that particular nail. So unfortunately, it just didn't make any sense to try to keep her nails because there were only 2 or 3 of them that still remained long. So we just trimmed them off and decided to do nail extensions from scratch. And also, luckily, once again, her nails are not that badly damaged, so we can proceed with the nail extensions. So I did some prep, I did dry manicure, and then we decided to do some kind of unusual nail extensions. So I had this tips with the texture for a while in my shelf, and I just could never find a way to make them work until I had this idea. So I decided to use them not exactly as they're supposed to be used as tips, but more like molds, like a dual forms. So I take this tip and place it under the nail, and then I apply a transparent gel on top. Since this tip is glossy, I truly hope at this point that this gel is going to separate easily, just like from the dual form. So I apply the clear gel, and then I build a structure with the rest of the nail like we normally do. And once it's cured, this is the most don't breathe moment of the service when I was removing this tip, but luckily it worked. So now there's this texture underneath the nail, but from the top it's absolutely smooth, and now they look like crystal nails. And then we have different options. We could do ombre, we could add some glitter, but we decided to do this reverse kind of French style nails. So I used that purple color with glitter to hand paint the nail bed area, and that's how we conceal the natural nail area. And like I said, there are many other options to do that. And of course, we're going to seal them with the glossy top coat. And if you thought that these nail extensions look really weird and no way she could left a nail salon with the nails like this, I have more questions for the next client, which came with the nails like this, straight from the salon. If we take a look from the side view, it's quite obvious that they're also tilting upwards, which happens. Some people have nails that naturally curve upwards, but these extensions did the same thing. They were also extremely thick and bulky, which makes us think that maybe she just has wide nails, but that's 100% is not the case. So when I started to remove the product, now this looks familiar because the color was not fully cured. So this is how it usually looks like. The layer on the top was kind of cured, but the product under it was not. So whenever you're doing extreme product removal like this, just make sure you have some spare removal bits, because if you have just one, you're doomed. It's going to get clogged and you really need to clean it. So as I was removing the product, I've seen all kinds, sizes and shapes of lifting. You see this white part? This is where the product was lifted. So I'm not sure what exactly happened here. How did they manage to apply the product so it was lifting all over her nail? So if she didn't come to me, if she would have waited another week, this lifting started to peel from her cuticle areas, and that would feel so uncomfortable and so painful, because these nails usually start to catch your hair and eventually she may hurt her nails. So one nail was slightly damaged, but luckily the damage was not to the point that we cannot do it. So we decided to proceed with the new extensions. And since lilac and purple are her favorite colors, we decided to do a similar style of extensions, but in a slightly different way. So I decided to use polygel and dual forms. I took two of these colors, white and purple, did some marble inside of the dual form and transfer it to her nail. I also happen to have this beautiful magenta polygel color, so we decided to use it as well. And unfortunately, that's the only polygel color that I have. So we decided to go with the nude nails for the rest of them, and then I'm going just to use a matching gel polish. So doing dual form extensions is really super easy because they work like molds, and most of the time you just need to file and shape them underneath. And we decided to go with a coffin shape, which I think looks really good. At first I was concerned if her nails are tilting upwards that much and we would need to fix it. But the thing is, once I filed them really short, it was not as obvious. So her nails are growing upwards only when they're way longer. When they're short, we don't need to worry about it. So then I used some matching colors of lilac and magenta gel polish, and of course we sealed them with a glossy top coat. If you could hardly believe that these nails went from the nail salon, take a look at this next set, because this one was truly horrifying. I don't think I've ever seen something like that. And here also, it doesn't matter which view we take, if we take from the top view, from the side view, they just look so weird. So these are stilettos, and the surface is extremely uneven. It looks like they're matte. They rather use a matte top coat, which actually makes it even more obvious. Then I decided to take a look from underneath the nails, and this is when I realized how thick they are. So this is going to be quite a lot of work. I don't really think that we can actually save something here, so the only way to fix that is to remove them. So I started doing that with a carbide bit, and once you file the length, this is when you realize on how insanely thick they are. But honestly, at first I had a little hope. I decided to file off the color on first two nails and see, well, maybe we can still do a fill. But this is when I realized the color was not cured properly too. The The surface is so uneven, there's a lot of lifting inside, so no, that is going to be just a waste of time. We're going to remove them completely. So once you decide that we're not going to do fill, we're just doing the removal, then it's going to be much faster if we file off the tip first. And usually it's fast, like a fast process, but not this time. Like, it was quite a challenge. And then when I started to remove the product that was from the nail plate area, this is also when I start to get confused, because some of the black color was not fully cured and some of the nude gel inside was also not fully cured. It was not wet to the point as we've seen in the previous example. I mean, it was not like we could not really see the liquid state of it, but it also kept clogging my drill bits. Can you guys imagine what a relief she felt once we removed that? And her nails are so pretty. And this time we decided not to go forward with nail extensions, but instead do a cute overlay. And her nail beds are really long and they have a cute shape, which means even with short nails, they're going to look great. So we ended up using natural color of gel polish. We added some neon colors imitating the drips near the cuticle area with the different colors. And this is how we went from insanely thick stilettos to these natural looking nails. And if you saw that these nails are beyond repair, wait until you see this next set. And if we take a look at it, it doesn't really look bad, right? These are black nails, yeah, a little bit overgrown, nothing extreme. But then she showed me that they actually feel like they're falling apart, they are lifting. But there was only one nail that was actually falling apart. So I thought, well, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe we can do infill here, and that's exactly what we decided to try to do. So I started filing off the color, and there was nothing unusual here, right? Unlike with previous examples where we could see an insane amount of product, super thick nails, there's nothing like that here. So you're probably thinking, hey Anastasia, you didn't rank these transformations correctly. This one is not the most extreme. Well, wait until you see further. So when I removed the color, I realized that these nails look weird inside. There's something white, which is product lifting, and maybe it was on one nail, but then I figured it's on the next nail and on the next nail and on the next nail. So what happened here? Supposedly there was product lifting before that, because we can see this internal lifting in the center, but closer to the cuticle the product looks fine, which means maybe the product started lifting, but when the nail technician did infill, they didn't clean all the lifting, but instead they applied the new product on top. And this is how they sealed this old lifting, and eventually it started to grow. And since she has rather long nail beds, also her nails underneath are grown also to a certain point, and that helped a little. This is where the product was still hanging to. Do you see this, guys? Basically the entire product that is on her nail was lifted. So even though they looked okay from the top, and this is very deceiving because sometimes you see, well, my nails are fine, but the truth is they're not. And I thought, well, okay, at least on the free edge they're not lifting, which means we can not just save them, we can do fill. But that was not everything. Let me show you what they look like from the side view. And this is when we realized that the sidewalls are also missing. They are badly overfiled. And if we leave it like that, these nails are not going to be properly structured, and eventually they are going to break 100%. So I had to use some product. I decided to use clear polygel to rebuild these missing sidewalls and these missing areas. Almost each side on every nail was overfiled, especially on this hand, so we had to rebuild it one by one to make sure that her nails are properly structured. At this point, I kind of regretted that we didn't start it all over, but you know, it was kind of too late. And also I thought, you know, to set myself up for a challenge. Also, if a person is on a journey to grow her nails as long as possible, it might be a good approach. Well, not every single nail was overfiled, but most of them. So after all that rebuilding and adding this missing part with transparent polygel on the sides, we need to rebuild the structure, and for that one I'm going to use a transparent hard gel. So I built the apex, I added the product, and then we need to file and shape them. And since I did a lot of rebuilding from the sides, then of course we also need to file the nail from the other side to make sure it's smooth there. I know that you guys were probably skeptical at the beginning, like, is it even possible to fix the nails like this without removing them? Well, I think that we actually succeeded, because this is what they look like after filing and shaping. Then we applied the color, did a little bit of nail art, and this is the final reveal of all the transformation that we did today. Let me know in the comments which one do you think was the most challenging.